What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and happy holidays to all. And today we're going to be talking about the Dark Brotherhood faction quest line here in Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. And I went through the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild in Oblivion many years ago, and I really loved them and enjoyed them. And what I'm going to talk about here as well, we are actually going to compare the Dark Brotherhood questline in Skyrim versus the Dark Brotherhood in Oblivion. Now, here's what I will say, is that, the Dark Brotherhood is good in Skyrim. It's definitely a good faction questline. It's very interesting. It's intricate to its own finest of detail when it comes to writing. But when I went through the Dark Brotherhood in Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, it was more fleshed out. It was interesting. It was mysterious. It was kind of dark and foreboding. I didn't feel that here in Skyrim, and the reason why I didn't feel that way is because even though that this faction in Skyrim is interesting enough, and to the fact that, this game really shows of how far an Elder Scrolls series has come. I think when it came to Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, though, especially with its main story, or its faction quest lines like the Mages Guild or the Warriors Guild or whatever in Oblivion. But however, in Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, they are just not as captivating as they are in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now, like I said, I was going to talk about the Dark Brotherhood specifically in this video, is because I recently finished through the Dark Brotherhood again on the PS5 version of Skyrim on the PlayStation 5. And what I will say is that I'm still not thoroughly impressed with it, even though, like I said, it does have some good writing to a certain degree, but it's just not as good as Oblivion's. And I think the reason why I say this is because when it came to Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline, especially, like I said, it was not just because it was fleshed out. It was more... It was very much more in better detail. The writing was so much better in Oblivion than it is in Skyrim. But I'm not condoning Skyrim at all. I think Skyrim is still an amazing game. It still has its place in the Elder Scrolls series or universe. But however, what I think when it came to the factions, especially like the Thieves Guild, well, I'll probably be doing that Thieves Guild video as well. But point being, I think when it comes to the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, it's not as strong. That's one thing I will say. It's not as strong as Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline, because I think it has to do with, it is part of the writing. I think it has to do with, it is part of character progression, and what I loved about the Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion more so than in Skyrim's, it had a ranking system of sorts, to where, kind of like what Assassin's Creed Mirage did. You reach from novice to apprentice to disciple and then master assassin. Well, that's what kind of the ranking system that Oblivion did when it came to the Thieves Guild or the Dark Brotherhood. And that's where I felt, like I said, it's just not as strong as it is in Skyrim, like it was in Oblivion, because of that specific reason. And it was what I loved about, the only thing I will say what I loved about the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim is that, I think comparing it to that of Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood, like I said, it's very different to a certain type of degree, because, like I said, it's not as captivating as the Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion's is, because for so many reasons unknown, or other reasons that I previously mentioned. But that's where I felt like when it came to the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, like I said, it's good. It's just not as good and or strong when it came to a certain type of character progression with Astrid, or what kind of a build that you're doing with your character, if you're playing as a Khajiit or an Argonian or any kind of race as the Dragonborn. You get where I'm going with this, right? So, anyways, And my apologies if I sound a little bit nasally. I am still actually currently going through a cold, so I know you didn't need to know that, but I'm just putting that myself out there just a little bit, I guess. But my apologies. But this is how I truly feel about the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, because it's cool and it's good. It's just that it just doesn't captivate you enough. It's not as interesting like it was in Oblivion. And I would love to talk more about the Oblivion Dark Brotherhood questline, because like I said, it was darker, it was more brooding, it was more, like I said, it was more fleshed out, and that's what I loved about it. And it's so much better in Oblivion, because I just think being as a stealth assassin, you know, being able to kill people in a certain type of fashion, it's so cool. And that's one thing I would greatly like to appreciate, though, too, especially with when it came to Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline, is that you're always going to different places to do the assassination contracts. You were able to do that in Skyrim, however, but what made it so less interesting was the fact that you are going to sit in different types of areas within the world of Skyrim to do these assassination contracts. But I think when it came to Oblivion, though, when you did these assassination contracts, the areas that you were able to pertain or to utilize a certain type of environmental way of killing your enemies, rather than just like, you know, going behind your enemy and, you know, slitting their throat from a stealth attack. You know, that's what Skyrim does. You can do it that way as well. But in Oblivion, it was, even though it is a much older game, it was just more, it was just better, because within these walls of Tamriel or Cyrodiil in Oblivion, like I said, not just utilizing a way of killing your enemies or killing these people as an assassination contract by using certain type of environmental stuff. It was more, like I said, it was fleshed out. It was more interesting. And I love that, what Oblivion was able to do with that. And not only that, in Cyrodiil, in Oblivion, it was lush, it was beautiful, it was organic in its own unique way. And that's where I was saying, when it came to Skyrim, though, I mean, Skyrim is beautiful to its own certain type of degree, but we're in the northern hemisphere of Tamriel. We're in Skyrim, right? It's the world of the Nords, basically. It's the north of the Nords. And I love that. I love that Viking feel. You know, that's where Skyrim is so much different than Oblivion. But we're just veering off topic here. I just want to like put in a little certain type of interesting way of how to possibly get more viewership. But anyways, point being, Skyrim is just that, like I said, it is a good game. I do like its faction quest lines, you know, like the Mages Guild. But we're talking about the Dark Brotherhood here, though, too, because I think the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, it's just, like I said, I know I'm going back to this again, but this is where I feel that Skyrim, while it is a good game, and while it does do certain things differently than Oblivion or Morrowind, you know, each game is always going to have its own unique way of playing a game. I think the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, it's very much dumbed down than from Oblivion. It really is, because of the fact, as I previously mentioned, it's not fleshed out enough. I feel like that. I think the Dark Brotherhood, in my personal opinion, in Skyrim, like I said, it's not just because it's dumbed down. It's the fact that the writing is just not as strong. And that's what I truly felt about the Dark Brotherhood. I'm not saying that Skyrim does not have good writing or certain type of progression system with your character or other characters within certain types of quest lines, much like the main story or like the Thieves Guild or the Dark Brotherhood or the Mages Guild or the College of Winterhold, that sort of thing. But point being, I just think that Skyrim, it's more dumbed down. It's more simplistic to know that this game really provides less of a challenge than Oblivion. And Oblivion, while I did enjoy Oblivion, there's only one thing I did not like about the Oblivion at the same time, was the leveling system. That's where Oblivion really made me make me less interested in that game, because of the leveling. The leveling in Oblivion is atrocious. While I did try to understand it because it was some sort of type of mathematical increase, but however, in Skyrim, it is that same thing, but it's not as complex. It's not as difficult in Skyrim as it was in Oblivion. But again, the Dark Brotherhood, the only thing that I felt about the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim is Cicero. He was antagonistic. He was vile to a certain degree. And I think that's where the Dark Brotherhood, that's the only thing I loved about the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim. But other than that, like I said, this faction quest line, it's just not fleshed out well enough. It's really not. Like I said, it's much more fleshed out. It's more interesting in everything else in Oblivion. And that's where I felt like, I'm not so sure if I really want to play the Dark Brotherhood ever again in Skyrim, because even though that it is interesting to a certain type of degree, it's just not as strong. You get where I'm going with this? I'm hoping so. But I don't know. I felt like that when it came to, by playing the Dark Brotherhood so many times through Skyrim on my PlayStation 3, and then playing it on the PlayStation 4, and then playing the game again on PlayStation 5, it just goes to show you that I'm very, very skeptical, or very, very opinionated, maybe a certain way, or optimistic about Elder Scrolls 6. And that is one thing I would really like to put in here too, is that everybody is scared about Elder Scrolls 6. I, for one, am. Even though I don't have an Xbox Series X or a PC, but point being, I'm really hoping that the Elder Scrolls 6 could be good. But like I said, a lot of people are scared for it. I don't blame them, because the way how Starfield is right now, yes, I'm sure that Starfield is going to be, probably going to be getting a lot more viewership, I suppose, or player base in 2024, because I know, for what I understand, is that there's going to be a DLC coming out next year for sometime for it, which is good. That's where one thing I would really like to do at some point is talk about content problem in most games, whether if they're single player or cooperative or multiplayer online. Because I do believe that some games, or the majority of single player games, or any kind of game out there, do have a content problem. There's no question about it. And it has to do with replayability. But what I'm saying, though, too, is that I think what I love about Skyrim, opposite that of not excluding Oblivion, is that I always go back to this game. It's one of the most fascinating games I've ever played, opposite that of Oblivion. And I think it has to do with, it was the factions in Oblivion. I think the factions in Oblivion, even though I've not played all the way through them, but I have seen gameplay on those factions on YouTube, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And that is why I'm saying I really think that the Dark Brotherhood could have been so much better in Skyrim. I really do. I actually thoroughly believe that. Even though a lot of people do enjoy the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, and I'm not condoning that. I'm not condoning that at all. I'm just saying, I think that in Skyrim, though, the Dark Brotherhood, it's just not as good. Like I said, I know I intend to repeat myself, so my apologies on this. But it's just the way how I'm trying to get really my point across. And so I just think that when it comes to a certain type of degree, to where I think that if and when the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I really hope to know what they're going to be doing when it comes to factions. I really do. Because, like I said, I love the Fallout games to a certain degree, but I am more of an Elder Scrolls, and there's a reason why for this. But that's going to be in a separate video. I don't like to always mention things about why I think the Elder Scrolls series is better than Fallout. There are some people that are like that. But however, this is where I'm going to go back to this one more time. The Dark Brotherhood, it is good. If you want to go through the Dark Brotherhood, you can. It's fun. But, like I said again, it's not as strong or fleshed out like it was in Oblivion. It's that simple. And I really think that, like I said, I'm really hoping that they can, if the Dark Brotherhood actually ends up coming to the Elder Scrolls 6, I'm sure it will. I don't know. I have my doubts. But even then, I'm just hoping that we'll see what happens. We have no idea what's going to do. We have no idea when the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come out. But however, I just think that the Dark Brotherhood, again, one more time, it's not as bad as it's not that bad. It's not. It's just not as good as Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline. And so I really think that if you really want to dislike this video, I don't freaking care. And that's another video I'll be coming out probably at some point as well, talking about that. But, however, I really think that if you really want to play an Elder Scrolls game, I really think Elder Scrolls 5 is still a worthy successor to that of Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. But either or, what I will say is that Oblivion is an amazing fucking game. I loved it, even though I've not played all the way through it. But like I said again, I have watched gameplay of that game, the main story, some of the factions, and it's outstanding. But playing through Skyrim multiple times, this game is utterly amazing as well. But anyways, too much further ado. Merry Christmas, everyone, to all. And you guys have a good rest of your holiday weekend. And I'll chat you guys later. Peace.